Will Kentucky turn things around in 2025? We're going to get that early projected record here, but first let's look back at the last 4 years and our projection. So in 2021, they were projected to go 7-5. They went 9-3. In 2022, projected to go 8-4. They went 7-5. In 2023, projected to go 7-5. They did go 7-5, but then last year, way under the projection, projected to go 7-5. They went 4-8. So a very disappointing year for them, obviously. Again, you look at 22 and 23, they were right there, pretty much where they were expected to be. Had a good year in 21 and a very disappointing year in 2024. So we'll see what it looks like. Again, normally the projection's around 7-5. I'll go ahead and tell you it is much, much lower this year. And our projections are all based off of our tier rankings. And so Kentucky is in tier 5. So they're in tier 5. That's the next to lowest tier just in terms of the SEC. Mississippi State is the only team that's in tier 6, the tier below Kentucky. So keep that in mind. But here's the schedule, and here is the scale that we use. So if Kentucky plays, let's say, a tier 6 team, let's say they played Mississippi State, that game would be in the purple. Unless it was a road game, then it would be a 50-50 game. And that's kind of the way this works. Not really going to have many games where they're big favorites. You start with Eastern Michigan and Tennessee Tech. Kentucky should be able to roll in these games. I'd put Tennessee Tech closer to 100%. I'd put Eastern Michigan probably closer to 80%. But both games are in the green, so we can pretty much guarantee wins in those games. Toledo, though, could be a little bit tricky. We've got this one in the blue because this is a pretty good team out of the MAC. I don't think that's a guaranteed win by any means. Kentucky should be 10 to 14 point favorites in this game, but it's still a game that they could lose. You like their chances. They should win, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was an upset here in this game. So really only 3 games where Kentucky is a clear favorite. They're going to be an underdog really in every other game that they play, unless some of these teams turn out to just be a lot worse than we expect. So you've got 3 games here where we're giving them almost no chance. South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas all below 20%. South Carolina is a tier 2 team, plus that game is on the road. Georgia and Texas are tier 1 teams, so those are going to be in the red regardless. So, again, there's no human element here. There's no predictions. We don't do predictions until after spring. The human side of me says that South Carolina game should not be in the red. That's a game that has a chance to be pretty close. Probably should be in the orange or the yellow. But, again, it's all based off of our tier ranking system, and it just comes out the way it comes out. It's a formula. There is no prediction here. There is no, again, human element. It's just based off of numbers. So 3 games in the red, and then we've got several games here in the orange. So Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, and Louisville. All of these games are in the orange because these are teams that are a couple tiers ahead of Kentucky at least. Tennessee is a tier 2 team. Kentucky, again, a tier 5 team. It is at home, so that's why it's in the purple, in the orange instead of the red. Same thing with Florida. Auburn and Louisville are tier 3 teams, but those games are on the road, which means those will be very difficult. And again, with our formula, that's how it comes out. Those 4 games in the orange. So now Vanderbilt is actually 1 tier above Kentucky. And so this game right here is in the yellow. And, again, me personally, I'd probably say that's more of a 50-50 game. But just based off of our tier rankings, based off of where these teams finished last season, that is why that game is in the yellow. Which means, if you look at this schedule, again, Kentucky probably going to be underdogs in 9 out of their 12 games. I think Vanderbilt's the only game that might flip around if Vandy turns out to be a bit of a disappointment. Maybe Florida falls apart. That game's at home. Maybe they're favored in that game, but probably not. I think this is probably accurate. I think they will be underdogs in 9 games, which means if they don't win any of those games, they'll go 3-9. Now, that's not the projection, because the projection does say they'll have a chance to maybe pull off a win in one of those games. The projection also says they might lose to Toledo. So how does it come out if you average it all out? It's actually 4-8, so the same record as last year for Kentucky. Their tier did not change. We didn't really see anything that made us think that this is a team that's definitely going to be better or definitely going to be worse. They figure to be a similar team, so it does make sense with a similar team and a similar schedule that projection would be 4-8, same schedule or same record as last year. So a 4-8 projection for Kentucky in 2025, and if that's the case, you have to start wondering, is Mark Stoops